Sometimes arguing with yourself feels harder than arguing with other people. This experience is known as inner conflict. It happens when a person faces two or more opposing values, desires, or goals at the same time. Each option seems important, and choosing one means giving up the other. Inner conflict is not rare. It is a normal part of life. For example, a person may have to choose between a stable and well-paid job and a path that feels more meaningful but less secure, or between staying in a familiar environment and moving somewhere new with uncertain outcomes. In such situations, both choices have clear advantages and clear disadvantages. The difficulty comes from the fact that our values cannot always be realized at the same time. One common source of inner conflict is the tension between personal desires and social expectations. A person may want to follow a creative passion, while family or society expects a more stable and practical path. This creates pressure and often leads to hesitation or avoidance. Another source is the conflict between immediate impulses and long-term goals. People often experience a pull toward instant comfort or pleasure, while at the same time wanting outcomes that require discipline and patience. These two directions do not always align. There can also be a conflict between different parts of the self. Human identity is not a single unified system. It is made up of different beliefs, roles, and priorities. Sometimes these parts are simply incompatible. For example, a person may want both more rest and more achievement, even though these goals require different lifestyles. Inner conflict often leads to noticeable changes in behavior and emotional state. People may feel tension, anxiety, or a lack of energy. They may delay decisions, overthink the same problem repeatedly, or act inconsistently. In some cases, a person may become overly active, trying to avoid making a choice altogether. One important insight is that inner conflict itself is not the problem. The real difficulty comes from avoiding the decision. When a person refuses to choose, the tension does not disappear. Instead, it grows stronger over time and can lead to emotional exhaustion or a sense of being stuck. Resolving inner conflict begins with recognizing it. Instead of ignoring the discomfort, it is useful to clearly identify which values are in opposition. Once these values are visible, the next step is to understand their importance. Not all values are equal in every situation. Creating a personal priority can make the decision clearer. In some cases, it is also possible to reframe the conflict. Instead of thinking in terms of either one option or another, a person can explore ways to include elements of both. Even if a perfect balance is not possible, this shift can reduce the feeling of being trapped. Finally, it is important to accept that any decision may later require adjustment. Choosing one path does not mean it cannot be reconsidered. Inner conflict is a sign that something important is at stake. And while it can feel uncomfortable, it is also part of how people grow and redefine who they are.